Friends, I welcome you to my channel. Before listening to this story, I will ask you to like and subscribe. It is not difficult for you, but it is pleasant for me. And we're starting. It's only for a week, Mike, Rachel said, rolling her luggage out the door. She didn't make the slightest attempt to calm me down. I tried very hard to persuade Rachel to give up the seminar and go on vacation with me, but to no avail. She insisted that if she attended a week-long seminar in Boston, her chances of getting promoted at the insurance company where she works would increase almost exponentially. I insisted that she didn't need a promotion so badly that she would give up so much of our family time. We've been married for 22 years. Both of our children are already in college, and I wanted my wife to spend more time with me and less at work. A couple of weeks ago, Rachel was planning to take a week off from work, but now she's going to a damn seminar on who knows what topic. She didn't look at everything as unambiguously as I did. There is a practice in her company when employees are lured by the possibility of promotion if they work a little more, a little longer, and a little better than their competitors. I first noticed this practice more than 10 years ago, but she just couldn't understand the situation as well as I do. Rachel has managed to get 2 promotions in these 10 years. I was convinced that they were more like participation trophies. It was enough to show up at work to get a new title or position, but it reflected damn little on the salary. When I suggested that she look for a new job a few years ago, she had a tantrum. I devote a lot of time, effort, and training to my work. I'm moving up the career ladder. A new job will make you start all over again. Sometimes I get the impression that you're jealous of my success. The fact that I am an engineer who receives a salary more than twice her salary does not mean anything to her. I'm a member of the Good Old Boys Club, and I get paid so well because of my gender, not because of my contribution to the success of the company. The funny thing is that Rachel is filling out our tax returns. She should see the difference in our income. I knew Rachel was the queen of denial even before we got married. Unfortunately, I was never able to determine how deep and swift this river was, at least until she refused to admit that her employers were enjoying the fruits of her hard work and dedication. I have no doubt that some newly hired employees receive the same amount as Rachel, but I know that the very mention of such an opportunity contradicts her reality. It makes me sad when I think about my marriage. The last time Rachel and I made love was the day before Christmas, and now it's June. I am 44 years old, in relatively good shape and with a healthy libido. A thought suddenly popped into my head. Zelda Zane mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, but I didn't have time to fully realize it. I don't really have a marriage. In fact, I lead the life of a monk, occasionally dining with a frigid nun. Why the hell am I putting up with this? It's almost impossible to please Rachel. At what point did she manage to take me by the balls, and why didn't I even notice it? I've been thinking about this for a while, and I've come to the conclusion that I have to find my eggs and, more importantly, use them for their intended purpose. I took my phone out of my pocket and looked through my contact list. A minute passed before Zelda Zane's name and number appeared on the screen. I chuckled to myself, realizing that it only took me to get to the end of the list. What names can there be after Zelda Zane? Zeus? Zorro? Zelda picked up the phone on the second ring. Mike? Zelda and I spent some time together at a Memorial Day party at a mutual neighborhood. They both had a little too much. This forced us to reveal to each other personal problems that we usually kept to ourselves. For some reason, which is not surprising, Rachel was working on this holiday. I was without a date at the party, and Zelda didn't notice it right away. She always acted like she liked Rachel more than me, but she was surprisingly friendly when Rachel wasn't around and protected her interests. Isn't Rachel here today, Mike? Zelda asked. She's crazy to let a handsome husband like you go to a party alone. Many of these desperate bitches will try to get into your pants. I don't seem to have a problem keeping them at a distance, I replied with a grin. A piece of ass along with a bike ride would probably send me to the hospital. I've had a dry spell, and things don't look too promising in the near future. By dry period, do you mean a few weeks? Zelda practically whispered in my ear. And how many weeks have passed since Christmas? I asked, starting to calculate in my mind. Holy shit. It's been over 20 weeks, Zelda exclaimed, too loudly for me. You must be ready to explode, even if, so to speak, you handled everything yourself. I don't need sympathy, I said quickly. Do you ask? And I told you. Please don't make more of this than it really is. I should have kept my mouth shut. This is not a reason to brag. I have never heard of a married man wanting to set a record for not making love. Poor fellow. Why don't we go to my place and resolve this situation to everyone's benefit? Zelda suggested. Haha, it's a good joke, but you probably shouldn't joke like that, I replied. Otherwise, it'll be your fault if I grab you and drag you into those bushes over there. Start dragging, Zelda objected, holding out her hand to me. That's what you're saying now, but you're going to have a completely different story when the police show up and drag my ass to jail, I predicted. Will the cops come here before or after you take me to Nirvana? Zelda asked. I hope you're joking. I'll turn you into a quivering mass of protoplasm long before they send me to prison, I boasted. It won't take long, Zelda replied. You've already half convinced me just by suggesting it. Why don't we go to my place to avoid the police, nosy neighbors, and grass stains on my lap? It suddenly occurred to me that Zelda might be serious. Did I unknowingly involve her in a possible relationship that could lead to the breakup of the marriage? Zelda, I didn't mean to mislead you. I'm sorry if that's the case. I apologized. I am a married man. I took vows and I was serious about making them. You're a beautiful woman, but I don't want to have an affair or anything like that. Mike, you're not married. You don't have a wife. You have some dried-up vixen doing her best to ruin the best years of your life. A real wife doesn't do that. This is definitely not love. She doesn't treat you the way you deserve to be treated. Your devotion is admirable, and that's one of the things I like about you. But it's inappropriate, Zelda reasoned. When my husband was alive, I tried to be available to him whenever he wanted me. I was so glad that I was able to do it. He fell ill and died so quickly that I would not have had time to make up for the lack of affection between us. I hate his death, but I don't regret our life together at all. I doubt very much that you can say the same thing. Almost 2 weeks later, that conversation with Zelda was still fresh in my mind. She's right. I don't have a wife or a marriage anymore. I have my right hand and a few evenings spent alone. This is not how it should be in a marriage. As soon as Zelda answered the phone, my tongue started to slur. Hi, Zelda. I wanted to know if you were okay. How is your garden? Where the hell did this question come from? I should have planned the conversation before I called. She would never have been able to tell what I was really calling about. I'm too cowardly to ask her if she still wants to make love. Mike, are you calling because you want to make love to me? Zelda asked without any preliminaries. How could she guess when I only asked about her garden? Is she serious, or is she just laughing at me? I know I have to be careful not to offend her. I've been thinking. Rachel's going away for a week, and so am I. Get your ass over to me. The door will be unlocked. I'll be on my knees and naked by now, Zelda promised. I didn't want to assume that you'd want me to come if you were busy, or you had company, or you wanted to watch baseball, or… Mike, shut up and get over here. I'm hanging up the phone to get ready. That's great. As I put my phone in my pocket, I considered Zelda's invitation. It seemed simple enough. I couldn't think of a reason why she didn't want me to actually come to her place. After 22 years of marriage, it's hard to believe that a woman would be waiting for me naked on her knees, but even the slim possibility of that left me no choice. Not knowing what to do after a 5-minute drive to Zelda's house, I rather timidly knocked on her door and was surprised when it immediately opened. Zelda, fully dressed, greeted me with chaste hugs and an obvious grin. You didn't really think I'd be naked and on my knees, did you, Mike? I was teasing you to find out how long it would take you to get here. You got there in less than 5 minutes. I'm impressed. Usually the traffic light on Hickory Street is always red. Well, there was no other transport, so I did. Did you run a red light? Am I flattered? Or would you have done the same if Mrs. Drysdale had made the same promise? I must admit that she is well preserved and probably has a lot of experience, because she is almost 90 years old. I can't say if I would have refused if she had given me the same promise. I haven't enjoyed carnal pleasures for a long time, I confessed. Does this mean that either you usually don't enjoy making love, or you just haven't had it lately? Zelda teased. You said on the phone that Rachel was going away for a week, Zelda continued. Don't worry, I'm not reneging on my promise, but I thought it would be nice if we sat down with soft drinks and discussed what goals and hopes we associate with your visit. To be honest, I do not know what to expect. I know it's presumptuous of me, But you were kind of egging me on the phone, I answered honestly. I've been thinking about our last conversation for a long time and finally decided that I've had enough of Rachel's shit. Are you planning to have an affair with me and just go back to Rachel when Dad gets back, no matter where she goes? Actually, no. Usually, when she's not at home, I call her around 8, but I won't call her today. We were planning a trip to Kentucky this week. She had a week's vacation planned at work, and it wasn't difficult for me to get this week off, I said. 3 days ago, Rachel announced that she had to go to a seminar in Boston for the whole week. I tried to talk her out of it. I booked a few tables, although nothing special was planned. But that's not the point. For most of the last year, she has hardly paid any attention to me. She spends more and more time at work and less at home. When she's at home, she's either sitting at her laptop or talking on the phone. If we sleep together, will you tell her about it? Zelda asked. And will you give her a chance to make peace first? Or are you thinking about getting a divorce? This is a state without fault, so it doesn't matter which spouse wants to leave the marriage or who ruined it. The children go to college, and this is covered by a program that allows us to put money into a fund for their college education before and after they graduate from public school. We don't have a mortgage. We can sell the house and split the money. I may have to pay her alimony, but it will be worth it. It looks like you're seriously thinking about getting a divorce. Do you still love her? The quick answer is that I don't love the Rachel I'm married to now, I confessed. I miss the Rachel I married many years ago, but I'm fed up with the woman she is now. I'm going to get a divorce no matter what you and I do tonight. Are you worried that you will be mentioned in the divorce application? It doesn't really matter to me, Zelda replied. I've been a widow for 3 years now, so it shouldn't surprise anyone if I return to the game. I just don't want to become a homewrecker, but you seem to think that Rachel has already done it. I have to tell you, I'm not looking for a long-term relationship, Zelda stressed. I want to be treated to wine and dinners, so that I go on dates with various charming men and travel. In fact, I'm tired of grieving and I want to enjoy life while I'm still young enough to do it. I don't want you to leave Rachel with the hope that we'll have something permanent. It pleases me. I don't want to rush into new commitments anytime soon, I agreed. I've seen too many people who leave bad relationships only to immediately enter into others that are just as bad, or even worse. Perhaps I will try to visit my children more often. Maybe I'll take up some new hobby, like golf or boating. It seems to me that I have spent the last year in vain. Rachel probably won't even notice that I've disappeared from her life because I've become such a small part of it, I reasoned. It seemed to me that talking to Zelda was very easy, which I did for the next 2 hours. She listened patiently, interrupting me only to clarify some of my statements or observations about Rachel. She was very interested when I mentioned my family tree. She was both surprised and impressed to learn that I was a direct descendant of Henry Clay from Kentucky. He was a senator, Speaker of the House of Representatives, and served as Secretary of State. In the end, I was held back when I found that stating my thoughts and feelings about my marriage allowed me to come to a decision. I am very unhappy in my marriage. He's on life support, and it's time for me to pull the plug. Thank you for listening to my problems. It really helped me clarify the situation and decide on the choice of actions, I said, gently hugging Zelda at the door. I'm glad you came. And I'm also glad that you weren't upset that I wasn't naked and on my knees. I just blurted it out to see how worried you are and how quickly you'll react. You were fast, very fast. Now that I think about it, I'm even embarrassed. In my defense, you're a very attractive woman, and I haven't had much contact with women lately. I appreciate that you took pity on me and allowed me to share my story. Go home and think about what you really want, Mike. We've got almost the whole week ahead of us, Zelda said. I've already told you that I want a friends with privileges type of relationship with an intelligent and reserved man or two. I don't want to become some dirty secret that you have to keep. I totally agree, Zelda. If I want to stay married, I won't step over my marriage. I must admit that I am inclined to no longer live as a married bachelor, if that makes any sense. Maybe I should have said, single married man? Mike, you're living like a damn monk. Not like any normal married or single man, Zelda said. If you don't like it, change it. Either take the law as a basis and make her your real wife, or use the divorce law to get rid of her. On Tuesday afternoon, I called Zelda. I met with a divorce lawyer today. He decided that I looked like someone who was ready to get divorced and start over. Holy shit, Mike, Zelda replied calmly. I wonder how he makes a living. An incredible observation for a divorce lawyer, don't you think? Okay, don't be sarcastic, I replied with a grin. He's my mother's first cousin, and I've known him all my life. I trust this guy. He listened to all my complaints, shook his head several times, and eventually called me a dumb ass for staying with Rachel for so long. He is preparing the divorce papers for me and promised that I will be able to pick them up tomorrow afternoon. I'll give them to Rachel when she gets home. I can't wait for this. And when is Rachel coming home? Zelda asked. I don't think I want to be anywhere near when all this happens. I don't know exactly. I haven't spoken to her since she left, and I haven't heard the details of her itinerary because I was very angry with her about leaving. I think next Friday or Saturday, since the seminar will most likely end on Friday, I reasoned. She left on Sunday, so on Saturday she will have the end of the week, which she mentioned several times. That's a marriage, Mike. Your wife went to Boston, but you don't know why, for how long, or if she's really in Boston. Yes, my lawyer also noted my lack of details about Rachel's plans. He thought it showed that I wasn't that interested in Rachel and her career. It made me feel like a pretty pathetic husband. I am ready to correct the lack of interest in my wife's situation. I want to get rid of this frigid bitch. Looks like you've finally made up your mind, Mike. Why don't we go out to dinner tomorrow night and celebrate that you're finally reunited with your balls, Zelda suggested. Wednesday was a significant day for me. I picked up the divorce papers to hand them to Rachel, enjoyed my first taco de birria in my life, and slept with her for the first time in 6 months. Zelda was a revelation to me. After our dinner at Taco Bell, she invited me for a drink. I applied my entire arsenal of techniques to her, and she reacted like a wildcat. I was almost tempted to feast on her little kitty, but I didn't know where she had been or who had recently visited her, despite her claim that she hadn't made love in 3 years. On Thursday, I called Zelda again. I'm loaded and ready to go. Would you like to have dinner with me tonight before ringing your bell? I'm sorry, Mike. My sister is coming to visit me, and she'll be here any minute. Can I give me a reprieve? I see. How about Friday night? By that time, you will be very much needed. My sister will still be here on Friday evening. She's staying with me for 2 weeks, so for the foreseeable future, put some other lucky girl on your schedule, Zelda replied before passing out. Mike, please listen to me for once, Rachel insisted. I want you to hear and understand why I'm divorcing you. Try to understand what will come out of my mouth. Understand? You're denying everything. If we get divorced, I will do my best not to pay you a penny of alimony. You're going to have to survive on the few bucks you bring home from your shitty job. Remember, I'm an engineer in this marriage. Mike, you have a position in your company, a sanitation engineer. It's not really an engineer. It's a term your employer uses to make you and other guys feel better working as garbage truck drivers. This week was important for me. I was promoted again. Now I am the regional manager of all farm state insurance. My salary has been raised again, so I will earn around 6 figures. I decided to take full control of my life, including divorcing you. You've been planning this for a long time. Mike, you're still delusional. You never talk about anything but yourself and your weird personal preferences. Yes? Ask your ex-girlfriend, Zelda, about her impressions of my skill. She's not some dried-up old bitch like you. Mike, she's my best friend. I asked her if I was being unreasonable in my expectations of my husband. She agreed to sleep with you in order to form an honest, unbiased opinion. I bet she's glad she agreed, I replied with a grin. Why did you decide to divorce me after all these years? I asked. We have 2 children. Why do you want to put an end to the good? It occurred to me that divorcing Rachel would leave me in a bad position. I barely made a living, let alone live the way I want to. I decided that she was downplaying my abilities in bed, trying to shake my self-confidence. Just because she didn't have an attraction didn't mean I had to do without it. I decided to convince her that I could live without making love if she was with me. She is very proud that I am her husband and would never give up on me if she could keep me. Rachel, I understand that you've never liked making love. It is okay. I can put up with it. As long as we're together, I'll be happy. However, I've found that he can be quite pleasant when I'm with a man who knows what he's doing. Did you cheat on me, Rachel? Are you a cheater after all? I'm using your infidelity as a basis for divorce. You will support me for the rest of my life. Mike, you know everything. I even confessed to Zelda that we are in a state where there is no guilt. That and the fact that you have no evidence of infidelity on my part makes your argument moot. Besides, I was waiting for Zelda to tell me that you used her before taking Tim Roberts for a test drive, Rachel replied with an evil grin. Technically, you cheated first. I didn't mean for it to turn out like this, I whimpered. I wish you hadn't gone to Boston. I have prepared a great vacation for us. You would have liked it, and nothing would have happened. To be honest, Mike, it was your vacation plans that finally convinced me of the need for a divorce. Visiting cemeteries and graveyards in every Kentucky postal area is not a vacation. It's more like Dante's Inferno.